So I guess we'll call this meeting to order. Would we like to do the pledge before our meeting tonight? This isn't a regular council meeting. Yeah, I think I'd like to.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks, everybody. All right, Mr. Kennedy, did you want to start this off tonight or?
Sure.
Okay,
Basically, we're here tonight to get some information, answer some questions, and to kind of move forward. The one agenda item that you probably have is that you need to appoint, most likely, Sarah, as somebody that can sign checks if Robert's not able to sign checks. So that's probably the only agenda item that we have to take action on. Everything else here is pretty much more informational and kind of moving to things forward, going from there.
and per advice of our lawyer, too, we can't speak about the ongoing investigation, us as a council member. We are not to be talking about it, so we understand a lot of you want answers, you have questions. We don't have them, so we need to follow our agenda according to our city attorney. And we don't have a comment section for citizens tonight, but us as council can determine if we want to have that. It just wasn't on the agenda. But if that is going to happen, we will have a 3-minute limit. We'll follow our agenda rules. And we will not, as always, we will not allow attacking of mayor, council members, or city employees. Because that's how we run our meetings. And that's how they're supposed to be run according to our statute. So the first item is appointing myself to execute the checks for the city. And this would just be temporary as I am on the council for 2 more months. And this would just be our main bill items and things that need to get done to keep our city running.
Yep.
So I suppose.
Two things. First, just to make comments regarding the investigation.
Okay.
The city doesn't have any information on that. That's all done by the county attorney's office, and that they would take a look at it. There was a search warrant that was executed at City Hall earlier this week. They sought certain information. The city cooperated with that, which they have to do on a search warrant. And that's pretty much where we're at on that. What you'd be voting on is basically making somebody an additional signer for the checks. So we can get things out that we need to get out statutorily, like payroll. And then when you do make decisions at the council meetings about which bills are going to get paid, that we have a person that's going to be able to sign off on that. Robert is still mayor. There's nothing with the charges that have changed that. But we anticipate that possibly because of his release conditions, which are his option, that he's not going to be exercising that role. And we just need to have somebody in place that can facilitate that if he's not here to do that. The release conditions that Mr. Anderson has, it was one of 2 things. He can post bond, I believe, in $50,000 and just appear in court appearances, or he was released without having to post any bond on the conditions that he have no consumption of alcohol or mood altering chemicals, and that he have no contact with anybody working for or on the city council or the city.
Could you speak up a little louder so everybody can hear you?
Yeah.
I'm barely hearing. Yeah, I got good hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, you're just looking one way and we're not here.
Again, my job is to address the council and to try to address their issues and stuff of that nature. So we'll try to do the best I can. But I don't have a microphone here, which I usually have.
Yeah, you're a quiet speaker. Okay, so do we need to have a motion to have me be the person to sign checks?
You do need to have a motion for that, yes.
Is that a motion or we need a resolution?
That could be done by motion, because you appointed her, and you use a strange term that other cities don't use. It's not mayor pro tem,
We call it. yeah.
Acting mayor.
acting mayor, yeah. So you call it acting mayor, even, so we would be appointing her to be acting mayor with the ability to sign checks and perform other duties that, the mayor can't perform.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. And I just want to, add to that, that it will just be, I would recommend that we just do, our city business as we need to be done. Out of respect, I don't want to make, any. We won't be making any big purchases or any crazy decisions. If there's been stuff that's been talked about for maintenance and stuff like that, I think we'll obviously go through with that, but it's just going to be business as usual until things get figured out, so. Second item is Kennedy has addressing harassing workplace issues.
It's just a reminder that the city council, you have a personnel policy that you have to follow regarding the conditions. That there's been some pushback from the community where they believe that there's certain actions that should be done or could not be done from the city clerk or for other employees. It's just a reminder that you have to have things in place that protect the employee. Otherwise, we suffer litigation from the employee. And that's kind of where we're at and where we have to be for litigation. So there's no action that has to be taken at this point. Last week, because of some concerns, there was some limitations at City Hall that would probably be the best way of going forward. That for some reason that there appears to be too much harassment or communications that are detrimental to the performance of city duties, that there'll be some ability to continue doing only those duties that were previously scheduled or kind of going forward.
Okay,
So what's the instruction for the community then? What do they call and you set up an appointment? Is that the deal?
That's something that the council can consider as to how you want to deal with that going forward. It's probably nothing that you have enough information today to put together a policy for how going forward on that. In regards to the community, we can't really necessarily instruct them or not. It's just a matter of having a workplace that's not going to be harassing to an employee that the council has to consider. When you say for the, so if somebody's calling and there's an issue regarding garbage pickup or something that would be normal, the cities should be operated the same way that's always been operated. It's just if there's something additional or something that is more relative to reactions regarding, the mayor facing criminal charges or why those charges may be there that really aren't, functions of the city at this point.
I guess I was thinking of somebody wanted to get a building permit. What's the procedure?
They'll follow the same procedure.
Just come to the door and get it.
Yeah,
Okay, the
just
door
follow
is
the
open.
procedure, and if there's going to be something of that nature where for some reason that the council feels that there's harassing or anything else, we'll have to have a procedure that allows them to contact either by email or by phone. But there's no reason that the city would stop doing normal functions.
Yeah, I just mean, so is the door open or closed? It's open.
It's open.
Okay, so they can come up here and get a building permit or whatever they need.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure of that.
but I think what we're saying is part of the position of working for the city is not to be harassed at this position, and we need to make sure that, if that happens, we need to take care of that, one way or the other. If it's ongoing, she's gonna have to make a phone call, and if it continues, we're gonna have to give her the option to, contact us possibly and lock the door temporarily if it's gonna be a problem. I would hope and trust that it's not.
Yeah, and the issue.
I don't see anything, funny about this.
Yeah, the
really.
issue I'm just trying to address is I want to make certain that you're following the personnel policy that you put in place. And there's provisions in there that indicate that there's not going to be harassments and that you're going to take actions to try to protect that.
Okay. You wanted to address the contract with the sheriff's office?
That's just more informational to remind the council at this point that the contract you have with the sheriff's office does not allow the sheriff's deputy to investigate or enforce any of your codes or ordinances. There was some questioning on that. I think there was some talk about, having a conversation with the deputy regarding the duties. That the second part of that is we do not have a specific deputy that is our employee or that we can have those conversations with. If there's issues that you have with the deputy or their services, that has to be brought up with the sheriff's department, and then they can determine how they want to proceed. First off, they have a union contract with their deputies that they have to follow. Secondly, our contract requires that we contact them, not the deputy. And our contract specifically indicates that they will not enforce code violations.
So how do we remedy that? can we talk with the county,
Correct.
get a new contract?
Yeah, it's the contract that's written the way that is, it limits you far too much.
Okay,
But you, from the sheriff's deputy point of view, they're never gonna have, a sheriff's deputy is never gonna be able to be your employer under your direction. They always have to be direction of the sheriff's department. So if
Right.
that's what you're looking for, you need to do something else.
okay,
Which we'll get kind of to the next point, because when we go forward towards next year, we're looking at the city code, you still have a city code that requires you to have a police department. And that is not, hiring somebody from the the deputy or from the sheriff's department to do that. So either the code needs to be modified so that we're following the code and it reflects what you're actually doing. Or you have to take a step back and determine whether or not a police department is appropriate again.
so I would think we maybe need to have a conversation with the sheriff's department and just kind of, for the new year, change the contract to include ordinance violation, addressing if they be willing to do that. And not maybe, can we do it to where we only have the trouble ordinances taken care of, that we've had concerns about the property violations and things like that?
Well, first off, I agree with the first point. I think this is something for the next council to take a look at for next year. In my mind, I think we should be looking at 2023 as kind of a rebuilding year and correcting a lot of these problems. I don't think it's practical for the sheriff's department to have any deputy that's going to be able to enforce your code ordinances violations. They're not going to be familiar with that, and they certainly can't be familiar with the code in Eagle Lake, Lake Crystal, Mapleton, St. Clair, Good Thunder, try to determine which ones they're going to enforce or not. So you're really getting to that point of having an employee that's, basically a police officer, not a deputy who's working for the sheriff's department.
So then to enforce ordinances, does that essentially fall on the city?
That falls on the city at this point. So if we don't have a police department, it basically will mean that we're looking at civil remedies on all of that.
Okay.
And then right now that makes our zoning administrator is the maintenance supervisor, which was a problem last year because we didn't really have a maintenance supervisor who that's going to be. But again, there's just a bunch of things in the code that haven't been followed in practice, and either the code needs to be modified. So we're doing what we're doing in practice and it's showing up on paper, or practice has to be modified. So we're following what the code is.
We could have done this a year or two ago or 3 years ago.
We've had this discussion for the last couple of years, yes. I think you probably have 4 or 5 letters from me in the last 18 minutes.
Okay. Well, so in the meantime, winter's coming, so really the only thing we need to worry about in the winter as far as is parking ordinance things for removal of snow, which will fall on the city maintenance.
Which would fall on the city maintenance and yeah.
Okay. All right, your fourth action item is going forward.
And we kind of touched on that already. I think that the council knows where I'm going on that. And, basically, when we get to the new council, we get into 2023, we should be looking at that year. And I don't expect it to be something that can happen immediately. But then we're looking at the code, we're looking at what practices are, and we're trying to find things that are going to work together. And so that we're not going to have issues where, what happens on a daily basis is not something that's permitted under the code or something else of that nature. You have a very nice code. It would work very well if you had about 3 times the population. Just in practice with having 2 employees, there's a lot of provisions in there that, make sense for a larger community that may not make sense for Good Thunder.
Okay. And your fifth action item is addressing council questions.
Basically, just any questions you guys have about what's happening right now and kind of going forward on it.
You said we can't ask any.
No, you can ask any questions you want.
But we can't talk about Robert's situation.
If you have questions regarding Robert's situation, the answer we're probably going to get back is it's not something that the city or that I have any idea over or anything else. I mean, what I can tell you is that he's been criminally charged with a number of violations based on his actions as mayor.
We read that.
You guys read the complaint. I can tell you what the release conditions are. The investigation itself was conducted by the state auditor's office, and the charges were brought by the county attorney's office.
How did this get out of this office to them?
That we don't know at this point, but the state auditor's office is required to take a look at the paperwork. And it's very possible that Burkhart, when they did their audit, has a requirement to report it. Plus, everything that's done in this council is public. So all somebody would have to do, I mean, it could be a citizen making a complaint. It could have been the auditors making a complaint. You know, it could have been just a normal check by the state auditor's office regarding the reports.
But
The
they,
land transaction is pretty evident, was always going to be a problem.
but they didn't come out here and audit everything before they acted on it. Somebody had to send something to them to act on.
I don't know. I don't know that.
I mean,
I mean,
that's just
I
a
just-
common sense thing. My wife was a legal secretary for 45 years. She knows that.
That's not how the
That-
state auditor's office necessarily works. They get a report.
Yeah, but they had to get the information.
They got the information correct.
Right. So it had to come from this office,
It would not. It could have come from the auditor's office, could have come from Burkhart's.
not for some of that stuff was being done.
They requested copies of reports, but they request copies of reports every year. You know, but let's assume you're right. Let's assume that somebody did make a report to the state. What's for the city's position, there really is no change because it doesn't make any of the actions by the mayor appropriate.
I'm not saying
doesn't
that. I'm
say-
just wondering how it got out of here.
To what
But they
end?
did not come in here and audit the office
Right,
before they acted on it.
but to what end? If
I
we
mean,
ask
when
that-
you've got a cop car comes out and picks somebody up in a half hour and then things hit the
That's, the
fan.
thing. Yeah, I mean, we can have a complete different discussion about whether or not the county handled this the right way. But from the city's perspective, and if we're looking at trying to figure out who gave the notice up to the state, the question is, what do we do with that information if we have it?
Like I say, all I'm saying, it had to get out of here to get to the auditors.
And that very well may be, but if it did come out of here to get up there, well,
Anyway.
I'm not saying it did. Now we're looking at whistleblower laws. Both state and federal statutes protect that.
Well,
So
That's all
I'm
I
just saying
just-
that investigation doesn't necessarily help the city. It can put us into questions where we have more liability.
and I'm not arguing that point. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it had to come from here.
Okay.
Somehow. Or they wouldn't have had nothing to act on. And the last report we've had from the auditors hasn't been, that hasn't been addressed at all.
I would expect that at some point that we'll have a better idea of what was in the investigation. At this point, we don't have access to any of that information.
Okay.
From the county attorney's office. I would expect the mayor and his attorney should have that information here in the next week or so, but that's not necessarily something that we get our hands on.
And rightfully so. I mean,
Right.
that's their stuff, but. So I haven't gotten, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Still don't have an answer.
No,
Right. To thank you for asking that question. Yeah. Okay.
because I think some of this could have been handled in-house. That's my opinion.
None of us were born yesterday.
I don't like the part where the sheriff department went up to a 100-year-old lady's house. Or less harassed her too.
And I can't speak for the sheriff's department or anything else. I'm not real happy that they came and did a search warrant at City Hall. You know, so with the investigation that the county attorney's office and the sheriff's department has taken, that's up to them. You know, for the city's purposes and the city moving forward, we know where we're at. We have a mayor who isn't here tonight. We assume that he's not gonna come back. Well, he can be. He can post $50,000 bail and be here.
Yeah, but if he has contacts with the witnesses, so who's the witnesses? Then he will be in trouble.
That's,
You as a lawyer know when a lawyer tells you to not do that, follow what my legal advice is to you, he's gonna do that.
and you make a very good point. If I was
Yeah.
representing Robert, I would tell him to have no contact with anybody from the city. Because
Exactly.
it doesn't help his
Boy.
defense.
Like, yeah,
But
I did
that doesn't-
yesterday.
Right, but again, that doesn't change the fact that has the ability to be here if he wants to be here.
But that wasn't
in that matter.
Correct.
I can't help what was explained to him or not.
Yeah, that was not explained that way to him.
All right, the release order is real clear.
Once again, the criminal complaint was out on Facebook to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Days before he had that in his hand. He literally got it when he walked in to look at the computer screen to talk to the judge. Now, there's a problem with the judicial system right there.
I do not disagree with that, and that's a complaint that's very valid and can be made to the county attorney's office. I've made it on behalf of clients in the past.
I had a question for you.
Almost everything he's charged with is in the minutes, because I've gone back through the minutes for months. How come you didn't have any problems when it was being discussed in the minutes, telling them, hey, you shouldn't do this?
Actually, one of the parts of the complaint itself indicates that there was a letter sent to the council and he did not, by the city attorney, and that he did not follow it.
Uh-huh. So you wrote the letter.
I did write that letter, yes.
Uh-huh.
One letter,
There's multiple letters.
one letter.
No, there's multiple letters there.
That's worth 13 cop cars and
Was the letters brought up?
Fabricated.
Writing the letters brought up in the council?
All the letters were directed to the council.
We need to maintain
was.
order here, guys.
Every council member should have got a copy of that letter as well.
The city has a copy of it. I would expect it was distributed to every single council member.
There's no guarantee there. If it came to the city and stopped there, there's no guarantee that they each got a copy of it. You should have sent a copy to every single one of them.
I don't think the council wants me to go through that expense of sending a copy to. each
Why not?
one. Because it doesn't happen that
That's
way.
what you're paid to do. We are taxpayers of this city. You are paid by the taxpayers of this city to do a job for the city, not for certain individuals or certain situations.
Every letter I sent to the council, I expect that the council receives a full copy for.
I
every city
expect it too, but there's no guarantee unless you send it to each and every single one.
That's
They
not
shouldn't
true.
In that letter.
For one person.
That's not true.
You don't need one speaking for seven. Every single one should speak for themselves. This is America.
Each one of the letters there would be in a city council meeting that would have been addressed by the council in those meetings. Every council member has these letters.
Good.
There's no
So
accusation
then
or
go
allegation.
back to his question. Everything you're bringing up obviously then has been gone over by this city council.
Yes.
It has been okayed by this city council.
Yes.
Now it's front page news. It's time to quit looking through your rose colored glasses and wake up.
All right, we're gonna keep this meeting.
They don't follow.
We need to be respectful.
I am.
okay? The thing is we do receive the letters, and actually there was comments to how many letters we did receive. And there was complaints to how many letters we did get, because there was too many letters. And it has been said up here, our city attorney gives us advice. Okay, we are advised by him, we should follow it. Is that happening all the time? No. Okay, and it's not one person up here. There are times when he gives us advice, and is it true? We don't like the advice sometimes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We all agree as a council to do something.
The council has made decisions that weren't necessarily the best decision to make. Okay? With this situation, we can't talk about it, but he has advised us, and some have said he advises us, it doesn't mean we have to do it. Okay?
That makes you just about as liable as anyone else then, correct?
Exactly.
How come you didn't get rated?
I don't know. I didn't have a financial benefit from anything possibly.
Oh,
Yeah, but you think
unproven.
We are a council.
Unproven.
Okay,
he's innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
I know.
Crap in the paper and right away he's executed.
Okay, this is a council meeting to try and figure out how to go forward as a city.
Worst taxpaying citizens.
Use a
trying to
better
figure
choice
out-
of words.
Who called this meeting?
Well, we did because we need to continue business.
But why was it done on a day when the clerk wasn't here? Why couldn't it have been business conducted starting Tuesday and the meeting conducted next Monday? Why would it have to have been special circumstances to get the meeting posted when there was no clerk on duty?
I believe payroll goes out tomorrow is the reason that the council chose to have the meeting here on
Do
Thursday
you
night.
see a problem with not being able to do the payroll?
I believe that statutorily that would be a problem for the city. Yeah, they would get a
We're kind of
hiccup.
experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
Sucks, don't it? I mean, you could have posted it on Tuesday, had your meeting on Friday. Then done payroll.
How many days out is the meeting supposed to be posted? 3 days, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this was posted yesterday. Why?
I don't have an answer to that.
Posted it Tuesday in
Tuesday.
our posting locations here in the post office, Tuesday morning.
Well, the internet's a posting location, correct? We got the city name on it.
I honestly forgot all about that. A lot has been going on. So yes, it wasn't on there, but it was in our public location.
You ain't doing
It-
it.
Other thing,
Okay,
So if it's 3 days, you did it Tuesday, posted Tuesday for Thursday, you still didn't do 3 days.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
It counts, the day counts.
What time?
Is yesterday.
And does anybody really feel a need to shut down City Hall? Post a note that says City Hall closed by appointment only, no appointments available.
Based on reactions that were happening around the city and trying to make sure it's rest, that we're following the personnel policy, that seemed to be the best option at that point, yes.
So if that employee felt so threatened, would they maybe stay out of sight maybe, or not go anywhere near people they felt potentially threatened by? Would that seem reasonable?
And I got one for you. Why don't we just?
Let her finish, Jim.
Yeah.
Whether it's reasonable or not, our personnel policy requires the council and the city to protect the workplace. In regards to the city employees' actions, I don't know that there's anything that the city can take any action about.
But if they felt so threatened that they would have to file a complaint with some council member, would they put themselves in potential harm's way? Or would they stay out of it?
But I can't speculate on that.
I would think, speculation or not, that if you were scared of retaliation, you wouldn't go anywhere near someone you felt would retaliate against you. Wouldn't that be reasonable?
Again, you're asking to speculate, and that just has nothing to do with anything for the city at this point. You're asking a question, I can give you the answer as to why the city allowed it, to be limited at that point, is because personnel policy probably required us to do it at that point. But the rest of it's all speculation and motivation of individuals, and I couldn't tell you that.
So it's okay to lock the doors, but yet have another city person in the city, not a council member, not a paid employee, sit in here for over 2 hours until the end of the day, but it's locked to everybody else.
The city hall wasn't closed and was supposed to be open for normal business that had already been scheduled or would be happening there.
The door.
As to anything else you're asking for
Friend in
questions.
here.
You're asking questions, I just have no idea of any of the facts regarding it.
I was just
That's
curious how some can come in and some.
Okay, again, I have no idea on any of that.
I guess that's why I asked the question. From now on, the door is open, unlocked, and business as usual unless there is a problem, you know.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's what we'd expect, is that the city hall would be operated in the same manner it always has been.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a particular issue, that the council would address that particular issue.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, but
Historically, we'd have the personnel committee address those particular issues, but now that the full council is the personnel committee, that makes it a little bit more difficult for that.
I have a question. Why would she feel threatened? I don't know, am I missing something? Why would she feel threatened?
Say it again.
Whoever's
Whoever
locking the
closed
door, I'm
those
sure
doors.
it's a code. Why, my question is, why does she feel threatened? I mean, what's going on? Why did you feel threatened?
I'm not gonna comment on anything. Everybody is well aware.
I don't understand why
of
the door was.
Craziness from both sides on social media. I don't want to be involved with any of it. I did my job statutorily. That's all.
Started it.
You started it, huh?
City policy of harassment.
Oh,
You look back on it.
I mean,
We have founded information. You have an ex-city employee that was getting completely harassed by 2 members of this council, or not council. That way, we have a individual that posts TikTok videos threatening retaliation against anybody that may have signed a petition against their lack of professionalism, knowing how to do a job. TikTok videos. Come on, let's grow up. That's not professional.
I don't,
Again,
in defense of Chris here, I don't think he has any idea about that, because we as council haven't even met on that issue yet. Because I didn't want to bring it up before election and have a big hoo-hoo before
Why?
election.
Timing is perfect for other things to bring up before
I know.
election.
I know,
Let's bring it up.
I don't want to do that. I didn't want to
It's
do that.
just a coincidence.
One side.
Yeah, just a coincidence. Again, I was not born yesterday.
I understand.
Yeah, well. I need you to speak up then, Tom. You got a good voice. You're a good leader. I got a lot of faith in you, but it's time that we speak up.
Well,
This is good thunder.
Not Minneapolis. Or Mar-a-Lago.
Speaking of TikTok, would that be proper etiquette for a city employee to do things like that on city time on city hall?
Again, I'd have to know the specifics of it. TikTok on for city if they're for, I don't know that the city has a policy regarding TikTok if we use it or not. I mean, various cities use social media all the time.
And not to harass this, not to threaten the citizens of the town.
It would never be appropriate for anything.
Exactly.
But I have no idea what's happening. I have no idea whether any of these things, I haven't seen any of them. And hasn't, council hasn't, sent it my way.
Yes,
The question-
Act info, would you like to see him?
Everything I do is at the direction of the council.
No,
for the most
well,
part. So I would need to get something from the council indicating that they want me to investigate it.
and that is that all council?
Well, that's generally, yeah.
Generally, yeah. Can you act on getting information from one council member?
Can I add?
Yeah.
Well, it probably depends on the circumstance, but if they're looking for something that comes through the council as a whole or affects the city as a whole, yes.
Yeah.
If they're
Well-
looking for something that's specific to them, then it wouldn't be.
Personal vendettas?
Again, that's,
No. You are an employee of the city of Good Thunder, correct? You're paid by the city of Good
I am
Thunder.
paid by the city
Yep.
of Thunder, yes.
So any action that you get to act on should come from the entire council, mayor, all of them.
If
You
that's,
are getting paid
if
with our
that's the
tax
policy the
dollars.
council wants to put in place, they can put
That's
that
what it
policy
should
in
be,
place.
because
Yeah,
you
it
are not
happened
being
that way.
hired to do personal vendetta.
That was their policy at one point. They changed that policy.
It better go back, because I'm not paying you to write letters to people on personal vendetta garbage. It's from the whole council, not just one. person.
There's not a single letter that I've ever addressed to the council that addresses any personal vendetta somebody has.
Oh, we can get them for you.
There are letters that indicate whether or not particular actions may be appropriate or whether or not they're statutorily problematic.
Yes, they are.
Okay, but that's completely different. That's just giving advice as to the city regarding legal basis for doing something.
Because you are on a retainer, paid for.
I am not on a
by
retainer. I am
Taxpayers.
paid for by
Okay.
tax.
You're paid by taxpayers of Good Thunder, Minnesota.
Okay,
Yep. You are an elected official, elected employee. Employees can be let go, fired, terminated, whatever. Council members that don't do an upstanding job can be voted out. Correct?
correct.
Okay, that's all I want to know. And we will push forward that there's no action letter sent to you by any one individual. It will be sent by council across, because I don't want you wasting my tax dollars.
Very well said. Right on.
Okay.
How do you think that your tax dollars were wasted? In the letters that they were followed, if the advice was followed, the mayor would not be in the predicament.
It
he's in
has
now.
nothing to do with.
It's all trumped up. We know what the hell's going on.
Yes. If you get to act or keep getting letters from one council person to act on a certain property or a property line continually over and over and over. In virtue, they get a lawyer that I'm paying for. No, that ain't gonna happen.
But you understand that the mayor probably gave me more requests than anybody.
That's his job. He's the mayor.
He's a council member under code.
He
The
is
same way
top.
as every other one. Actually, if you look at the code, he's outside of presiding over the meetings, he really isn't any different than any other council member.
So that $3,300 or whatever that was spent on lawyer fees, you're telling me those came from the mayor?
I'm not saying that they all came from there, right? No.
But you did say most of them.
You said most.
No, I said he gave me more than any other particular council member. I would have no way of knowing if he gave me the most or not offhand. But I know I've had more conversations with him than most of the other council members.
I would love to see a spreadsheet. Most of that work
There's
you got.
bills. Yeah, there's,
How about the city clerk? Because that's not a council member.
the city clerk will have direction, but that's for almost any city.
So I meant phone calls.
They will have phone calls to me, yeah.
But the.
But that's gonna be the city administrator, city manager, city clerk, and almost every city is gonna be the point person and talking to staff or talking to.
So since we pay you, can we have who all contacted you for those $3,300?
Copies of my bills would all be public record from City Hall.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is there a timeline on how this all took place and
some of this sounds like it's 2-3 years old. Yet it all seemed to fall basically before the election. Is there a timeline that we can look at to see when things were done, when there was questions about it, and why it just happened to be 2 weeks before the election that it all took place with the sheriff's department? To me, it seems a little strange that things that should have been questioned 2-3 years ago happen to come up and be done immediately before an election. It seems strange to me.
Anything regarding that portion of it has to be directed to the county attorney's office because they did the investigation, they did the complaint. We have no idea when they started their investigation.
When did you
Should
send
they-
your letter?
What's that?
When did you send your letter? Because that's what started it all. If it's been 2 years,
Well, whatever
When did you send your letter?
letter would have come at the same time the transaction regarding the real estate occurred, whenever that would be.
so you're saying they had your letters for 2 years?
I have no idea when the county attorneys bothered to get the letters or how they got the letters.
But when did you send it?
I would have sent it at the time of the real estate transaction, but I do not remember the date.
Is that not more than 2 years old, though? Just
I don't
generally?
have to look at it. But it very well could be. But again, that in regards to the charges and the timing of the charges, that's completely the county attorney's office. There's nothing that the city can do to influence that. I mean, Minnesota's, Minnesota's not like what you see on TV. There doesn't have to be a complainant to bring charges. The county attorney has the authority to do that on their own.
Shouldn't they have done a little bit more due diligence before they got to this point to see what was going on? I mean, nobody had a clue this was going on, and I do understand part of that, but it really doesn't look like they did their due diligence to find out if they really should drag him through the mud like this.
That would have to be directed to the county attorney.
So at the time the real estate transaction went down, you had serious fucking concerns about it, and that was expressed in the minutes.
I assume it was expressed in the minutes, but I do.
I didn't see it.
I did not go back and take a look at it, but.
I have, we've gone back a long ways.
But there is correspondence that indicated that there was concerns about, any transaction that the mayor would vote on, that he was a party to.
We just had an auditor sit here the last meeting that we were at. He went through everything, gave his report.
Said everything looked fine.
There was not one, much less red flag, not a gray flag, a blue flag, nothing was said.
Other than the toner that was.
Yeah, other than $9,000 worth of ink.
Yeah,
All I can tell you is what the criminal complaint says is that they get this information from the state auditor's office.
It's kind of, it's easy.
At least tell the information from the city to the state auditors or to the sheriff's department.
To the sheriff's department, I don't know who would give it to the sheriff's department, to the state auditors. That would have come from the council and from the clerk because they're required by statute to give all that information.
So is one council member allowed to be here after closing time by himself to do that, or how does that work?
That would be
How about
dependent,
Saturdays?
that would be dependent on the city policy on things of that nature.
What's the city policy?
I don't know.
Who would have that information?
At this point, I'm not sure.
How about 7, 8 o'clock at night with only 2 people in this room? Lights on. Doing who knows what? Is that a paid position? Would you like to know if that's, after hours?
Again, you guys are bringing up scenarios that I would have to.
Oh,
have
there's a
more
lot of,
information on.
because it's so obvious, it's like the nose on your face.
But, you're also going down a road where, you're saying basically 2 wrongs make a right.
No,
What we want to do is figure out where the city needs to go and how the city can best get there going forward.
no doubt.
I have a question, Chris. So this has kind of lingered since I actually was working for the city. I always like to, maybe it's not right, but I always think of the worst thing possible. So Jim becoming mayor, Ashley in the position she's in, is that not a conflict of interest that we're worried about as a city?
As to whether or not individuals want to be worried about that as a conflict, I'll leave that up to them. It's not illegal.
It's not.
No. And it's not terribly unusual for something of that to be of that nature.
Doesn't
It
that
was
fall under
certainly-
the profiteering as a mayor then, if there's something along that line?
It was something that the council was completely aware of when she was hired.
He wasn't running for mayor at that time, though. He was just council member.
Yeah, but it doesn't change. You can't fire an employee because a family member
I'm
runs. for
not saying
mayor.
we have to fire.
You
I'm
can
just
fire
asking
anybody.
if
It's a
it's a
working rule of
conflict of
state.
interest. I don't think. I'm
What's
not
that?
recommending that we fire her. I'm just asking if it's a conflict of interest.
It would not, because North Metcalfe very well may have the exact same situation,
Would they both be signing the checks?
except the reverse. Would they both be signing the checks? Yes.
Could be.
Okay.
Speaking of checks, why would a check get sent out with only one signature if they're required to have two?
Again, you're asking for information. I just don't have. I can't answer.
That you legally should do?
It is permissible for cities to give authority to individuals to sign checks without having them to be co-signed.
The one person could send out a check with the person that did sign the check under the understanding that the other person did sign the check.
Yeah, those cities can give authority to their employees to sign checks. It would not require a counter signature from a mayor. Most cities-
Check just signed by the mayor would get sent out.
What's
But
that?
he didn't make the
When
check.
he didn't write the check out. Why would a check get sent out only signed by the mayor that the mayor did not write out or mail?
Again, that can be directed to the council, and if they want me to take a look into it, I can take a look into it, but that's not a fact scenario that's ever been presented to me.
So if you make out a check, shouldn't you sign the check first? Whoever made the check should sign the check first, and then it should go to the mayor for his signature.
Or just leave it out here. I got it. Oh, we're taking it to go. Well, if you want to keep watching that, we can. I do want to keep watching. That's up to you.
I think it's
Check your-
circumstance.
Check your microphone, please.
Sarah, you got a hand right there too.
We got a hand? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have
Sir.
a question for the council, all the council. Why is it that when you people meet at your monthly meetings, why don't you submit your claims list and pay the bills there? And you can all approve the bills. Why do you do it the way you do it? I don't understand. So you get all your bills, you pay your bills once a month. You're all here, you all see what your expenses are. You all as council people look at them. You approve them. You sign the bill, Robert signs the bill, then Ashley, if Ashley's name needs to be on it. Why do you do it the way you do?
That's how we do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how we do it. We approve them at council meeting.
I think he's saying checks.
They need to be signed
physically
in
in the
front of
meeting
everybody.
and then.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Well, usually he would sign them the night of the meetings. Or if he didn't have-
Interrupted. She will literally walk up while he's talking or they're discussing something, asking for autographs. It's happened more than once.
That's not how it should be.
They sit there in front of them.
And the check should be signed by her first, and he's signing off, yes, that's the right amount, but it's not. They come blank. Cheryl always had them signed first, and then he signed, but now all of a sudden, it's not that way. With a rubber stamp.
There's no rubber stamp. It's a hand signature. There are no rubber stamps.
Is there a stamp?
The rubber
Yeah,
stamp
there
was
is a
used
stamp.
for years.
Yep,
And actually, what?
Cheryl never had a rubber stamp.
Oh, yeah,
I think she did.
he did.
Previous clerk had the rubber stamp.
There's there's
No,
There is one. It hasn't hardly been used at all in last quarter.
There's 3 or 4 old ones from when Cheryl are here in the back. There's one from when Heather was here. It has been used occasionally, not very often. But Heather used it all the time. Blue Earth County has copies of all the stamps that were here.
and we kind of went where we didn't want that to happen unless it absolutely had to.
So can the family ask for the stamps back with all these witnesses?
oh, sure.
They should be destroyed.
Throw it away.
Put into it.
No. Can we?
Yeah, we're fine with that.
For that?
That is his signature.
Yeah.
I would support that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I just don't want to get charged with theft of city property, so I prefer to just destroy them here, because that'll be the next thing that'll come up.
No, that won't come up.
The sheriff's department has them.
Might be a person just
No, they
submit them to somebody proper authority or
like
something.
think of them.
I'm gonna agree with you. It may be evidence. They probably can't be destroyed at this point.
But
Let's
once,
get them out of city hands.
Wouldn't they take them when they were here auditing?
They took like
Impression.
impressions of them and pictures of them, and then they put them back in the. Except for the one that was in the cabinet, then they put that one back where it was.
So will that get on the agenda as to why a check without the mayor's signature was mailed out? And then it's put into the news and media outlets, insinuating he did that as a crime himself. It was mailed out with one signature on it, even though he didn't make the check. He signed it, probably not even really, you know, who knows? I can't
Did he
speculate on
sign it?
that.
Was a rubber stamp?
Oh, good point. It's a rubber
Exactly.
stamp. But why was it ever mailed out without two signatures? That's something the city council needs to ask. Bring up.
Elise got a question.
Is there or is there not policy that there is two signatures to make a check, valid?
Mhm.
Is a policy of that?
And naturally.
I know,
those
yeah.
questions
And I guess-
have-
As long as I've ever been here, that's always been my understanding.
Does it actually say that
I'm
on
sure
the
Chris
check?
is looking on the code right now just to see if that's actually in the code.
Should not have the bank rejected it?
A lot of times,
Oh,
the bank should be.
a lot of
the one
times it's-
rejecting.
A bank don't even reject an unsigned. I mean, it's unbelievable.
There's not two signatures, that's a double signature.
Jim, I have a question for you. I think everybody kind of beat around the bush about it. What have you been doing up here at just random times? Just
It's interesting, if you guys wanna pull up this camera right here that watches. You can pick up the dates on Thursday from 7 to 8:30 that I'm here. I'm using the library space to have a Zoom meeting.
Okay,
Is everybody allowed to do that?
I don't know if everyone's involved.
How do we get a key for the city hall to get in here? I'm
Just
sure a lot of
be-
people like. to
just be a
use it
council
whenever they felt
person.
Like,
They have church here on Sunday morning too. I didn't know I couldn't use City Hall. It's a quiet space to have a Zoom. And you can go back and watch me sit right there for an hour and a half having a Zoom.
you've got a nice place down there and you're a carpenter, you can make a nice office. I'm just wondering, do we all need a key for this?
It's my understanding that this room can be reserved by anybody in the public, though I'll be honest with you, I don't remember that issue coming up since Heather was city clerk. But at that point, that was the question, and at that point, we were allowing it to be reserved for other. For people for birthday parties or card games, or I don't know what else that they were looking at that time.
There'd be a record of that reservation then?
Would there have been at that point? Probably, but it's not the type of record we would probably keep for years. For privacy.
Somebody could let themselves in, basically. I mean, who knows what? could-
I'm on city council. I can let myself in this building. I got a key for the city shop.
We do, I mean, I don't have a key,
back there, right?
I don't have a key for that door. That's correct. I do not.
but as city council members, we're supposed to have keys to all the city buildings and check them periodically.
Be able to use them as your own.
Well, no, but
That should be brought up that everybody can use that, whether it's a sign out type ideal.
It should,
sheet Or whatever, it should be known that.
Yeah.
It's not
We used to use
preferred.
this for Girl Scouts.
yeah, I was gonna say, we used it for Boy Scouts. I think it's known that if somebody wants to reserve City Hall, they can.
I think you're hearing throughout everybody out here that it's not very well
Well,
known.
not now, it must not be,
Well,
but we'll make it known.
there's a lot of policies, I think, that need to be updated.
And since this is a government building, can alcohol be in here?
yes.
Alcohol can be in here?
We can't necessarily furnish it, but the fact that it's a governmental building doesn't by itself prohibit any alcohol consumption in the building. There may be policy, there may be other reasons for not allowing that, but that by itself isn't a prohibition. It's not
Can you
uncommon,
speak up, please?
sorry, it's not uncommon for cities to have, rooms that they'll have for the public that may have wedding receptions or other things of that nature. And they can bring alcohol in.
Are there any other current court cases or anything pending about any other city employees that you know?
What I can tell you is at the end of Mayor Anderson's complaint, it said the investigation's ongoing. I don't know what that means.
But any other
Besides
unrelated?
him.
It would be inappropriate for the sheriff's department or the county attorney's office to comment or particularly let any individual know if they're being investigated.
But not concerning this thing, concerning anything else, like say.
But again, if they're being investigated, that should not be information that individual would have knowledge of during the investigation. So no, we wouldn't have any knowledge until their charges were brought as to whether or not they're being investigated or not. So no, I don't have any information that anybody else is being investigated. I have no information that nobody else is not being investigated.
On any other unrelated subjects?
Right. Again, any ongoing investigations private by under the Minnesota, well, under chapter 13.
Does the city have a valid notary?
I have no idea. I'm not sure that the city needs a valid notary. I'm a valid notary. I just don't, I'm not sure. I've never had to use it for any city that I represent.
Does the council have a policy and procedure guide? Because I know when you're talking about 2 signatures on the checks, that's not in the city code. I've never seen that. City code pretty much lays out, you know, this is what is enforced, but there should be some kind of policy procedures that explains how things are done. Is there one? Like 2 signatures on checks, you know, how that review should happen. You won't find that. There's nothing in city code on it, so I'm assuming there is some kind of policy procedure somewhere.
There may be, many of those things may be lost to time.
Okay.
There's never been, to my knowledge, a single book that was kept with all the policies and procedures for the city of Denver. Whether it was Cheryl, Heather, or anybody, I just don't think one was ever put together, and that's not terribly unusual. As we go, if computers are more prevalent and everything of that nature, more and more cities have those things that are readily accessible. But I don't believe that there's one document that lists every policy or procedure or resolution that the council's passed.
And just one other question. So does Minnesota follow the same rules as a lot of other states? All government agencies are audited annually? No.
We provide an audit and we are all audited annually. The Good Thunder is audited annually by Burkhardt and Burkhardt.
Okay.
The state auditor's office will do periodic additional reviews of the auditors and the rest.
But I mean, there is a standard audit, no matter who does it. There is an
There is
annual
a standard
standard audit.
annual audit, yes. And for Good Thunder, that's done by Burkhardt and Burkhardt.
And that's been every year for years.
It's been every year for as long as I can remember.
And actually, we do it every 6 months right now.
Okay.
And couldn't you contact the bank? They should be able to tell you that there's 2 signature required because they produce the checks. They require the 2 signatures. The bank should tell you that it requires 2 signatures.
Yeah, that's very possible, but again, it's not statutory, and I know cities that will have one signature on checks, particularly if it's under a set amount. So, as to whether that can happen here or not, that's certainly, the council can take a look at that. I
So
just don't
how
have an
is
answer.
this one check missed out of all of these checks over all of these years? Naturally, this one's missed.
I have no idea. Again, I don't have any information on that. I mean, you're bringing it up tonight. This is the first time I heard it.
Right?
What's that?
You represent the city, right?
Yes, but I'm not going to know everything that happens. I don't come to every council meeting. I come as directed.
So you were saying, the gentleman here, that some of this stuff gets laid by for 20, 25 years. That's been a policy or whatever you want to call it. It was just carried on, carried forward, carried on.
Mhm.
Like, I've been around here a while, and things that were taken care of by different areas of the city. We used to do, the fire department used to do a lot of things. We did volunteer stuff for hockey. There was I used to help the city guy, it was no big deal. We got the thing about the rock. I used to haul rock for the city. But all of a sudden now, one guy can't haul rock. But he's been doing it for over 20, 25 years. Or you said that things, probably 40. But things just kind of get laid by and maybe there's not a policy, but it just keeps going on. So, but it's really not illegal, but yet all of a sudden it is on certain things that's been going on for since we had wheels around here, people doing things. But now they've brought a flag up.
2 weeks before an election.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like, really?
The issue hasn't just come up, and there's been discussions, and the council knows that there's been discussions over what we can and cannot do. There's policies and there's ways cities that they'll take and do things that are historic, sometimes it doesn't mesh with what the statutes say.
Historic, that's a good, yeah, very good. But now all of a sudden, you can't do it. It's front page.
Well, again, that's the
Doesn't
county
it just
attorney's,
seem a little,
that's the county attorney's office deciding that they wanted to bring criminal charges this matter.
yeah, but how did they get to the county attorney?
You'd have to
A
ask. the
little
county-
minute thing like that
You'd have to
gets
ask
to the county
yeah.
attorney.
You'd have to ask the county attorney how they got that.
Okay,
But again, the county attorney indicates that they believe that's a violation of the law.
Shouldn't they have checked on that before they arrested him?
That would be.
You also have to prove intent to do this in a criminal or such way. Does anybody here see that there was an intent by him to defraud the city of Good Thunder by taking a load of gravel?
The statutes that he is charged with do not require criminal intent to profit. The intent is just whether or not you took the action in violation of the statute.
Go back to what Lee said. They've been doing it for 40 years. Now, all of a sudden, this action took the intent to justify front page charges?
But again, that's the county attorney's
We don't
office. The council
wake
here,
up.
the council doesn't have any authority over that.
It goes back to where the information came from, the time that it got there, and why it got
Right.
there.
I just want to look at the last 2 years, okay? There's been 4 or 5 loads in the last 2 years. All of them has been paid by these people, all of them, except the last one that was billed in April. So tell me that. Her name's on all of these checks in the last 2 years. Besides this last one, she didn't pay in April, which was approved by the council. So tell me how this last one's an issue, but yet all of these exact same people paid the other 3 or 4. I wouldn't know because I don't have the computer to look, but it's at least 4 or 5 loads. So answer me that.
I can't answer that question because that's up to the county attorney's office.
It goes back to
What does?
40 years with
Should we get the
paperwork, and all of
county
a sudden
attorney
now it's a deal.
You can ask the county attorney that it's up to them what they want to do or not. You can't require them to be here. But they brought the criminal charges. They have that information, ask them why they brought the criminal charges.
So-
That's not,
It was a criminal charge because why? They didn't sit down and okay and put it out for bids and everything else? Is that why it's a criminal charge? Did he charge 10 times the going rate to bring that rock back? I highly doubt it. He probably hauled it back for nothing and all he's getting paid for is the rock.
it's a criminal charge because the county attorney's office decided that they're going to bring a criminal complaint.
Then it should be against every member of there that okay.
Again, that's up, you have to ask those questions to the county
That's
attorney.
where government is.
It's up to their discretion.
Why don't you ask them?
Yeah,
What's that?
Why don't you ask them? You're our
yeah,
attorney.
you're working for the city.
Why don't you ask them? Just out of curiosity, why you don't have any, you can't ask the county attorney anything?
I can certainly ask the county attorney those questions, yes.
So the county attorney,
But we couldn't have answer until everything's settled too. So you.
The answer to the county attorney's office at the present time is that the investigation is ongoing.
so if they're worried about procedure, why wouldn't anybody in the council here gotten harassed for the fact that we have the sheriff's department, which I hope can be made to enforce the stuff we need enforced in this town because people lack basic decency. But I hope they can be made to do that. But if there's no resolution or okay for them to do that, he says the police department is supposed to be by the city. And that's not happening right now. Why didn't you issue a letter about that? Why didn't that get taken care of? And why wouldn't that be some offense that the government would look into? It's basically procedural infraction, same as some of this stuff here they're worried about.
Again, in regards to the part with the county attorney's office, I can't deal with it. In regards to the part with the police department. The county or the city has those letters from me ever since we stopped using the Tri-City Police Department. Man, they'll notify, man, that I'm irritated to the council to the point on the police department that it's not what the code requires. And that they need to be consistent. And you heard the comments I made at the beginning of this meeting that I believe that we want to make things consistent between what happens and what the code says. So I agree with you. They should be consistent. Just how do we get to that point?
Why wouldn't somebody worried about that?
I disagree with you on that. People did worry about that. It just, the council
Like a
chose.
government agency to come in and, look it over that, say, why didn't you do this right?
Because there's not a specific statute that makes that a problem.
As the town's advisor on what statutes are legit. We have not had a city of Good Thunder Police Department for how long?
4 years maybe.
Okay, so we had a Tri-City one.
We had Tri-City.
And how long ago was that?
I believe that was about 4 or 5 years ago, but.
Okay, and now we have the Plymouth County Sheriff. Correct?
We have hired the Blue Earth County.
And for how long?
Second year now.
Second year.
So in 2 years, you haven't told them, let's get this procedural stuff done. Otherwise, why are we paying Blue Earth County
I have told them.
deputies?
No, I
He
have,
has told us.
I have.
Why are we paying them if they can't follow through on anything that's so-called against city code? So we paid them for 2 years. Again, we talk about all this waste or whatever of city funds. But boy, 2 years, you don't give up rats?
Again, they have received.
You need
notice from-
to be
I,
providing the information to tell them what is legal, what is needed, what needs to be
they've
done.
received that information. It was not followed.
In Chris's defense, he has sent letters regarding the police department. We didn't realize that when we signed on with them. Actually, we had thought as a council that it had been reviewed by you and that it had been okayed, and apparently it hadn't been. It must have bypassed.
Well, when they came and talked to us, they said they wouldn't enforce some of those smaller things like the barking dogs, the grass and stuff like that. You know, so I don't, and I think we've talked about.
That was really all that was excluded
Mhm.
at that time. It wasn't the entire code.
What about unlicensed vehicles, campers, boats?
Well, we were told that
Vehicles that are in the city right away, street right away, sitting there with unlicensed vehicles now. Am I wrong, but isn't that illegal?
we have brought that up.
That was brought up a month ago.
And the explanation that we got was that it's very hard for law enforcement to even enforce that on the highway. Because everybody has got mail problems now. And the license plates are always in the mail. And so they don't even really bother to issue tickets on that anymore.
Then cease and desist on sending out any more of those worthless letters. They're worthless.
I'm just saying that was the explanation
You said
that we got.
Our statutes don't go under weeds either. Didn't you say you got a letter on weeds? Other
Well,
people have got it. on-
No, I'm not
Send
saying,
them out. It don't do no good.
I'm not saying that we don't have that. I'm saying that the county wouldn't enforce that for us.
Yeah,
That's what I was saying.
that we understood when the sheriff's department was hired. 2 years ago, was that they wouldn't enforce in our
So what are they
code.
enforcing?
Well, they're supposed to be
Super
enforcing.
cars ripping around town, burning tires off?
Yeah, that's
They
what
do
they're
that.
enforcing. That's what they're supposed to be enforcing, and they do. I mean, I know there was a car that just this evening went roaring out of town. Just, you know,
know what that one is.
and I had never seen that one before. But then again,
Shop and whipped around there too.
Yep, in the wash bay, the tracks are still there. And ran through a stop sign. We have that on video too.
Would there be any conflict of interest of a city official determining the value of city property?
What?
For purchase by themselves?
I'd probably need to have more facts regarding the situation, but the way you worded it, that would probably be problematic.
Yes.
As to whether or not it's illegal really comes down to very specific facts.
So I got another question, you know, because some of these council members were definitely on the court hearing and heard what was said. So I just got a question that, you know, he's not supposed to have any contact with the city members. So can you tell me why he received the text message that there was this private meeting tonight?
First off, it's a
Private meeting.
Secondly, any really
Special meeting.
Special meeting.
It's special.
Yeah.
Still the mayor.
He's still the mayor, and there's no prohibition from anybody in the city.
So he can't have contact with you guys, but you can have contact with him?
Exactly.
Any of these members are free to talk about?
Any of the council members are free to talk to him. The only person that's restricted by those release conditions is him.
Okay, so they,
Him in the court.
they can come talk to him, but he can't talk back.
If you do not post the $50,000 bill, that's correct. The same thing is true on an order of protection or restraining order. They're all one-sided. Here, he has conditions that he agreed to with the court, between him and the court. The city was not a party to that.
Can he reverse that then and post bond and be able to interact with them?
He can post bond anytime he wants. I'm guessing he'll talk to his attorney, and this Cartier may decide that that's not the best thing for him. But that's between him and his attorney. He can post a 50 grand anytime he wants.
So should he run when anybody would want to talk to him, or is he allowed, if they approach him, to be able to respond?
Whatever release conditions he's chosen to follow, he has to follow. If somebody from the city came and talked to him and he responded and they were notified, or the county attorney's office was notified, or the court was notified, they could take action on his behalf.
So we're all about social media and pictures right now. So say Sarah is at the shop talking to him and there's a picture of it and it ends up on social media. How's that gonna work? Because how do they know he talked back or didn't talk back? But it's gonna look bad, right?
I just wouldn't put him in that position.
If he was.
Anybody, we know.
I wouldn't do that.
Emergency arose. I think you probably all can agree there probably isn't nobody more qualified, since we have a new city man coming on. If there was an issue on that type of thing, he'd be the guy to ask. And I don't think anybody's gonna argue that. So would he be allowed to provide input if there was some issue like that?
He needs to speak to his attorney on that because it's his release conditions. There's no restrictions on the city and trying to talk to him about that. And if he were to talk to the city, there's no restrictions on the city and receiving that information from him. But he very well may be in violation of the release conditions that he posted to the court.
So I have a question for Ashley. So up here on here, when you sign into this, you have to put your name and your email address, right? Right?
Well, I think so, yeah.
So this Anderson that's up here with the llama with the hair over the face.
That was on court too.
That was on court too on his hearing. Well, the
Hey, Beverly.
Andersons are here. So is there a way to find out who is signing our name?
I think so.
There has to be, because you're in charge of it, right?
Well, I'm not gonna say yes, there is, because I don't know for sure. And then if I'm wrong, I don't want to be chastised for that. But I can
Pretending to be
definitely,
us
I
on there.
can definitely pull it and see. I can also tell you that there is probably a Luke Hellickson on here. So it's probably not him, but that's.
Yeah, because he doesn't have more than one computer, does he? They know. Just like.
I'm
Jason Anderson
just
was on there.
asking because it claims Anderson on here. Well, that's not the case. And it's just so funny, this llama obviously is a joke towards me because this llama with the long bushy hair was also on the court date as well as Jen Derry, same picture. So I'm just curious.
I'm sorry.
Somebody's bored.
Mhm.
Hey, maybe you should get a job.
Get a life.
I'm just curious if, I mean,
I will definitely look into it, and if I can find out, I will tell you exactly who it is.
thanks.
You're welcome.
When she even made the comment at the beginning, if they didn't have the right name, she wanted to log them off.
Correct. And on the court thing, when you sign in, it says it must be your legal name. So I want to know how I was signed in as my legal name and so was this llama.
I don't know. I don't know because
One person.
and you saw my name on there. Because of course I'm gonna watch that because that was about the mayor of the city I'm on the council with for the last 16 years. And I wanted to see what happened.
Yeah, how many problems have you had with him in 16 years?
Well, I'm not gonna discuss that.
Of course not.
We haven't, I worked with him for 16 years on this. We haven't always seen eye to eye. We haven't always gotten along. We've been cordial to each other. What's going on right now is like nothing I would ever want to see. I mean,
We all know, and we can get into the legality of it, but we all know state didn't pick this up on their own and say, hey, let's check this stuff out.
I don't know. I have no answers. I'm sorry.
Just like, all the bills are already hashed out and measured up twice. All this concrete was put in place, yet there's all these different amounts. One council meeting has there being 40 yards missing. Then we've got $25,000 worth, which equates to 18.2 loads missing. When they come down to ask for information from the city, did the city provide them with the invoices for the concrete that was poured down there? It's gonna be drastically short from what's actually in the ground down there. So who provided that information and why didn't, as the paper says, the city didn't provide what, if any of those materials was used on a city project? Why not? Why not?
I don't know. All I know is that they were here yesterday and got whatever they needed. Was it yesterday?
Day before yesterday.
Okay.
There
Well, they were here last week.
I have not been contacted,
I mean,
so
that information is here. So, you know, you throw this crap in the news, but the city hasn't provided what, if any. Why not? You've already went over it in multiple council meetings. Should not have been hard.
I don't-
It's not expanding foam, you know, it just doesn't grow on its own. You gotta haul it there and put it in the ground.
yeah,
I got one question for you too. You said you've been a council member for 16 years.
yeah.
Okay, Tom, how long have you been on?
I can't even tell you for sure.
Okay,
12 years this time and 10 years before.
6.
And I'm not badgering, I'm not picking on, but, and like you said, 8. Okay, every one of you sitting up there owe him a gigantic apology for not doing your jobs. Get policies in place, act on them, get them in writing. Don't let one person be the fall guy. That's why your rubber stamp needs to go out the door and you need to start doing your jobs. 16 years? Come on, 12? And we have no policies? This isn't Buford.
I asked that at the last meeting. Jim's been reading the policies for how long?
Which ones?
All of them, all the city policies and procedures you've been
The
reading
code,
for.
yeah, you said you were
Yeah,
gonna
the
work on,
codes.
you know, you doing that on your Saturdays while you're here?
How long have you been doing it though?
About 3 years reading through the league
Okay.
book and all of that.
So 3 years and you've made how many adjustments? Would we do that with our employees? No. No. And you know, we have this whole spiel, but yet we've got other members that have done things as well, you know, that's costed the city money. Have those been addressed?
Are those front page news? Can you not,
I've
can you
been,
not agree with me that you, as a council, across the board, owe a gigantic apology to the taxpayers? To let something,
Maybe.
having this happen, one person be your fall guy. Come on, y'all got a voice.
I don't know how to answer that.
Oh, you should. Be a man, stand up and say, yes,
Oh.
we were lacking. We'll learn from our mistakes. We'll move forward.
I agree. We didn't
Make
get into it.
policies, live with them, follow them. Quit letting this kind of crap go down.
I agree with it. We didn't get into it deep enough to not let this happen.
And then,
And that's-
let the sheriff department go up to a 99.9-year-old lady and go to her house thinking she's an instigator on it too. And then today she gets the Mapleton paper and
Front page stuff.
breaks down stuff, crying. So I hope you all feel proud of harassing a 100-year-old lady like that.
But I'm still waiting.
that's the thing, we had.
Anybody adult enough to say, hey, we're lacking, we screwed up. We did
Absolutely.
not do 100% fulfilled what you were voted in to do. Hired to do. Again, I'm gonna repeat, you can be voted off, you can be fired.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, that's the first one. I like it.
We were
That's what I
quick
was
to
asking for.
apologize when we had that issue against her in the dress code or whatever that picture. We were quick to apologize to that, but we're not quick to apologize to this. And there's also a TikTok with her calling herself a whore while in the city office, while on TikTok, while being paid. So that was okay to post that on public's social media, but y'all had to do apology.
I can't speak about that because I haven't seen that. I don't know.
I'm just saying, we were quick to apologize, had to do a letter, had to be professional, but yet you're destroying a man's life for nothing. And everybody's mum's the word.
No,
And my last phrase is, this is America. Everybody is innocent until it's proven.
100%.
And I'm not saying the other word because it's malarkey. He's innocent until proven otherwise.
You're right.
I know I'm right. And that's why I'm saying. I'm not trying to badger or personally attack any of you. I'm saying it to all of you.
Oh, we get it.
Yeah,
Okay, it's time to snap ship and let's get this stuff procedure wise. If you want to run like Minneapolis or you want to run like Mankato, let's run like it.
Well, we've talked about how we need to change things sometimes and we're a little laxed on things, but well, we are with our,
Go
you know,
back to that rock hauling again, 40 years and now it's a problem.
Well, it's really only
Well,
the last 2 years.
laws change, you know, maybe things have changed and we haven't caught up with those things that have changed. We've talked about policies that need to be changed for years. And when we discuss things that need to be done better, sometimes the mentality of this is just good thunder. That's what some people will say. We don't want to have these, you know, we don't want to have, what do we talk about? When we do our permits, we don't want to have a permit process like Mankato. You know, we don't want to have a permit process like the cities, because then we would have to follow all these codes and that would cause the citizens to have all these permits and whatever. So there's certain, you know, there's certain things that we struggle with.
But
And
you
we've
don't
talked
struggle
about
with
that.
a high-priced lawyer. Don't struggle with that.
I can't answer questions.
Yes, sir.
Did you or did you not just say that there was policies that were changed that you guys supposedly don't know anything about according to the rock hauling? If so, how is he supposed to know?
No,
None of you know, he's not gonna know.
I'm just saying that maybe what may have not been an
No, you
issue
just
30,
stated that there was-
I don't know that.
No,
I said there may have
but yet
been.
one man out of all of you is supposed to know every little single thing, but yet how many we got up here that don't know any of them?
I think it was brought up at a previous meeting that getting paid as a council member or a mayor for services is problematic.
Okay, when was that?
That was after that April bill and they haven't received the bill since.
Correct. Bingo.
Okay. But what I was trying to say is what might have been okay 30 years ago, maybe isn't now.
So what you're
Okay.
saying also is problematic with hauling a little rock. But how many of you are up at 2, 3 in the morning when the water main breaks? How many of you are helping out,
I agree with you.
fixing everything, plowing snow?
That's not a
sweeping
question.
streets? No, I'm asking you a question.
How many of you ripped out all the sidewalks and didn't charge a dime? Because that's what he does.
worked on a plow truck for 8 hours on the first 10 inches of snow for nothing.
I don't disagree with you.
Put the rear end
Well,
on.
then it's about time that maybe as a council that you guys have his back instead of trying to be a scapegoat.
He even worked on a lawnmower one day for me. He's done a lot for the town that he don't get credit for.
No,
We
know, then let's start.
donated a lot to every celebration we've ever had.
This.
More than anybody else.
We know that.
We know that. We know that.
But this is the situation he's in.
But I haven't heard a word on anybody for a little support, little talk, little, oh, you know.
What are we supposed to say?
We're not.
Yeah,
Can't discuss it.
this is America.
No, we have screwed up in the past. There ain't no getting around it.
No,
But I mean,
We never followed through on it.
we
I
can't.
commend you.
You know,
You started it with saying,
Yeah, I know.
that's great. That's what you
It
should
just,
do.
We can't discuss what you're asking.
Well,
So why the hell did they come and do the search warrant, ask for paperwork and everything? Shouldn't they have done that before they charged them with it?
yeah,
and Made it national
because
news?
they don't know nothing. And how did we get, I mean, is there a little, I would just say prodding? And how far this got put out?
Huh, I took a phone call yesterday from a friend of mine in Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, there's a report on a Mason City TV
yeah,
station.
so he saw
Where does that get?
Called
Good Thunder, Minnesota, to Mason City,
that.
Iowa.
Don't.
I don't know.
I don't believe for a minute that there isn't a prodding of passing out information. Let's get that out there. Let's get that slanderous. Let's get it.
Well, there is, Jim, that's the person that's running for council admitted to that. So that is out there.
I think there should have been a lot more investigating here by the city. You should have been looking at more of this to say, no, this can't be done. But the county attorney should have been looking at a lot more of this before they press charges against somebody. And the sheriff's department should have demanded that some of this paperwork be done before they ruin somebody.
He was in Mankato in 35 minutes. 35 minutes from the time they knocked on the door Do the math.
And he was gonna be sweeping streets that night for free, because you know, there isn't nobody else to do it.
Yeah, nobody else would do that. As he's already done it once, and then he pays an employee to help remove all of them and take them wherever he took them. So not only is he donating his time, he's paying his employee to do the work as well. Mum's word though. Anybody else step up? No.
So I guess I got a question quick.
Yeah.
Might be a dumb one. No such thing. But in the end, will we find out who blew the whistle? Yeah, who tweaked the county attorney?
Ask the county attorney.
Will it all come out in the end? And I'm not sure how you said it, but at the start of the meeting, you said that there's a law about harassing council members. Is that right?
Well, there's a harassment law,
Okay,
but that's in general.
Okay,
There's nothing
but you said-
specific about council members. I
you
think there's
said-
a city policy regarding harassing workplace.
well, somebody said something about some kind of a law about harassing council. Or maybe Sarah's the one that said that we don't badmouth councilmen. Is that what,
No,
I think you said something like that.
what I said
This meeting was attacking.
Okay.
that's generally our policy is we don't allow employees or mayor or council members to be attacked at council
Okay,
meetings.
so you said that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the end, if that does come out, what will you do as a council? What will you do to those people? If you're saying that you don't, what will you do?
We just don't allow it during these proceedings to make city business happen appropriately.
So ask your question again, Tom. I'm not sure I quite understood. Are you trying to ask, are we going to find out who instigated these proceedings against Robert? Is that the real question you're asking?
I was asking him, in the end.
In the
Are
end.
you gonna know the whistleblowers?
Because
And
we don't have any power over
no, I'm not asking,
anyone, okay.
I'm not saying the
Yeah.
council, I'm saying everybody in the end, after the county attorney is done. Is it gonna be public knowledge that who was the whistleblowers?
If it's found out to be, is what he's saying.
No, I'm
In the
saying.
end.
The process in this matter is all the information will be disclosed to Robert and his attorney as they prepare a defense. He's due in court in January. In regards to as to whether or not all this is made public, if there's a motion hearing, and it's evidence in the motion hearing, it will be made public. If there is a trial, it will be made public at trial. If there is a plea agreement prior to trial, the parties may agree, and the city is not a party. The parties may agree that that information does not come out, but that would be between the county attorney's office with prosecutor and, Robert Anderson. So the city doesn't have necessarily any control of it. When this matter is completely litigated and he's been found not guilty, or something else, the city would request that information because we're going to want to backtrack and figure out exactly why the state auditor had issues in this matter to make sure we can correct anything that we may not have seen. I would expect that the state auditor's office sometime in the next couple of months will give us a report as to what their concerns were, individually on a civil matter and ask us to correct it. And it's very possible that the information may come up through that. So it's possible, but I can't give you a blanket, yes, we absolutely will.
If they provided false information knowingly to start this, especially considering an election coming up here, can they be prosecuted?
If they provided false information to the sheriff's department or to the prosecutor, that would be criminal. I do not know if it's criminal giving false information to the auditor's office.
So,
What information they claim to not know, but it's already been hashed out in multiple city council meetings, like the missing concrete. They claim. I mean, that's already been went through and measured. Why is that an issue when it's already been measured twice and laid out with Jake, the city guy, along there as a witness? This stuff all belongs there. Why is this a fact yet? Why is it something against him when it's already been proven that concrete went there?
The council's approved all those actions except possibly April is my understanding. If I'm incorrect, I'm part of that. The council hasn't taken any action, hasn't provided any information. The city, as far as I know, hasn't provided any information as to why that's an issue for the county attorney's office where they brought a criminal charge on that particular matter. That would unfortunately have to be left up to them because we just don't have any control over the criminal portion.
And what I'm saying is the concrete has already all been accounted for, measured twice.
Right.
So they're alleging that that concrete got dumped at the station. When the city council's already disclosed through 2 different times that it's already been proven it's down where it belongs because it's there. It's physically there. You can't hide it.
Are you asking if there's a defense to the mayor in the criminal charge based on the actions of the council? Are you asking whether or not this was an issue for the state auditor?
I'm wondering why that is a criminal complaint, whatever charge if you want to put it, if this has already been discussed. To me, if the state came down, looked at this and this council's already went over this and proven this, that this is concrete is where it's supposed to be, why is this ever an issue? Why isn't that already put to bed?
I can't tell you that because it's the county attorney's office. I don't think the council would have taken any action or done anything further on that. I do believe that they believe that that was all taken care of and all done.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. How
But
can this be an allegation against them when it's already proven that it wasn't, it's where it belongs? Why would that ever get included in this complaint?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you why they chose to bring the charges that they brought. You know,
Once again, somebody pushed it. They didn't come up with that on their own.
That's-
The
that- that's-
investigation was
no, but
revealed
that's-
what we discussed.
yeah, that's just not the process in Minnesota. You don't have a victim pushing things. The final decision for making the charges rests with the county attorney's office and that's it. They decide, they can take the information, they get the information, they make the determination whether or not the charge is going to be brought. No victim, nobody else is signing off on the complaint.
Again, shouldn't they have looked at this before they accuse somebody of it? I mean, come on. We pay the sheriff's department to do something. And obviously, they didn't do their due diligence on any of this.
And I can't argue with you on any of that. I can tell you that the council doesn't have anything, and there's nothing that happened with Mayor Anderson that's beneficial to the city. I don't think there's anybody in this room that's, you know, looking anxiously or is happy that charges were brought.
So I see a candidate blue right now.
Back there.
I do. So the city's accounting firm.
Burkhardt and Burkhardt does the auditing.
They do the auditing.
Right.
Then that goes to the state auditor's office.
That automatically.
I mean,
goes to the
they,
auditor's
they,
office.
they go through all of it. So my question is, I don't want to do all this finger pointing. Could they have been the ones that tipped off, or would that? Or they would have went to the city first? Could they have said, you know what, there's a lot of findings here, but also on that, they would have sent them findings to the city council, correct?
There's a statute that requires the city's independent auditors to report to the county or the state auditor any findings without giving notice to the city.
Without giving notice to them. So it could have been nobody in this. room.
It could have been, it's all speculation.
Yes.
Right.
But it could have been the accounting firm.
It could have been the auditors. And I know I keep correcting on that, but they're not our accountants. They're not here to do our books for us. They're here to audit or to make sure
Okay,
that
so
our books are
the
correct.
auditing firm before state auditors.
Right.
So I don't know how I want to put this. So whenever Robert, Mayor, did he purchase all that from the city? Was all that land from the city?
What are you talking about?
Well, what's all this about him? I guess I just don't understand about the house.
How the property was divided up, right?
Yeah.
And who?
I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I'm maybe just spewing out nonsense, but I guess my only question is, I don't know how far back that goes and I don't know how far back the accounting firm does. It's probably a year behind or 2 years behind. I don't know. All I want to know is they possibly could have been.
They possibly could have been. They audit up and, you know, for good thunder, they do a 6-month audit. They report it once a year. So we would be through 2021 and audits with the state auditor.
And they
If
do not,
if they receive information in between times, they can still report it up to the state auditor's office.
and they do not have to tell the city council.
If they believe that there's something that's criminal or action by a member of the city council or the city, they would be required not to. As long as the investigation's ongoing, you don't tip off the person that you're investigating, the investigation's going until you think, until you bring charges or you think it's beneficial for the investigation.
Would they have, I don't know how I want to even put this yet, but would they have maybe, if something looked fishy, would they have gotten in contact at all with the city?
They'll
I know
generally give
that's
us,
probably the same question, but,
they generally give us reports of things that they find are erroneous,
and then we can correct it.
and then they're supposed to get corrected.
And if it doesn't get corrected, then probably their due diligence to bring it to the state audit.
I think when they find it, it's a problem, even before it's corrected, they bring it to the state auditor's attention. And they technically are acting instead of the state auditor. We could have the state auditor doing the same thing. It's just cheaper to have Burkhardt and Burkhardt.
Yeah, I get it.
Do you think they would submit a claim anonymously, or would they as a company submit it as themselves?
I do not believe that they're able to do it anonymously. There is a statute that requires auditors to report malfeasance to the state. That's the idea with them being independent, that while the city may pay them, that they're independently reviewing their books.
Because as I was standing there listening to the accusations against the guy that's, literally given everything to this town, they told me that it was an anonymous complaint to the state auditor's office.
Yeah.
So that probably would rule out Burkhardt.
At this point, I don't know, because the investigation from the county attorney's office didn't follow what I would normally expect for a criminal matter. Because I wouldn't have expected that the city hall would have received the subpoena after the charges were brought.
Why?
So, what's that?
Why?
Typically speaking, that's served beforehand when you're trying to gather the information. Here, they thought they had enough information that they could go forward and bring the charges and prove the charges. So I'm not sure.
That's exactly right.
Right, but the information that they also thought, I believe, is all public, that they could have just asked us in a letter for all of it.
That's right. They could have watched it on YouTube and got the answers to a lot of their questions.
So those are just questions I don't have answers to.
So can the council confirm that house was bought to put a well in,
Right,
right?
yep.
Okay,
Not exactly.
Well,
oh, now it's not?
No, we talked about the potential of a well site there. The very first thing we talked about. We bought that.
So did you buy that lot for the house or a potential of a well? Which one?
We bought it for a house by my suggestion that we could rent out to pay the taxpayers back.
Now that
It was
after
also, it was also
thought.
mentioned that
For a well.
it was also, we could potentially have a well on there. It was engineered and found out we couldn't have a well on there
Well, actually it is. because
until they
it's all
used Sherman Street as a setback. There's all kinds of stuff you think you know, but you don't know.
Well, I was involved since I had to make this thing work, so I was there. I got the stuff from the MPCA. It was all checked out before any of it was brought up, because nobody wants to do it after the fact and turn into something like this. It was all okayed before the fact that this has so much setback. Everything's good from the gas station. Not a problem.
I don't want to stop you there, but you're Robert's son, correct?
That's right.
This is a public hearing. You understand that anything you say here could be used later on by the prosecutor.
It'll be on social media and.
Well, I didn't say.
I'm just saying this discussion here, not, if I was representing Robert, I wouldn't want you, or I wouldn't want a council member Prom necessarily talking about this at all, because it may affect how I could defend a case.
But it's.
Well, the city didn't buy the house for a rental opportunity.
I'm not here to give you legal advice. I'm giving advice to the council. You can do what you want. I'm just reminding you that's public.
And to answer his question, what's the property? For the city chunk, who'd you buy it from? Can you answer that?
Yeah. Protein source.
Protein sources. So Robert bought his property from who?
Protein source.
Correct. So that's to answer your question. It was not bought from the city. It was bought from Protein Sources. All three. They all went down there together. They divided the property. Protein Sources got to keep some, city bought some, and Robert bought some.
But that's the
That
issue.
should have been found out, what, in 15 minutes online with the deeds? And they couldn't do that?
I think the county did do that, and I think it's basis for the charge. The problem on that statute is he also signed the deed as
An original gas station was Anderson property for years.
Years.
Well, wait a minute. When he signed the deed, he wrote mayor.
He signed on behalf of the city.
And do we?
Property coming to the city. At the same time, you signed it.
All approved though, correct?
It
That's
doesn't
correct.
matter if it's statute, whether it was approved by the council or not.
Did it go by your desk?
Yes, I said not to do it.
And what happens if someone contacted him and said, this needs to be signed,
He's the mayor.
just the mayor?
Well, we don't have any procedures. We don't have any protocol.
But you don't, you also don't have a city manager, you don't have a city administrator. So at that point, it becomes unclear, and the city clerk hasn't been given that authority.
That's right.
So yeah, it becomes problematic for everybody.
But only one got arrested.
Would you suggest we should have a city administrator?
I don't think you're big enough to have a city minister. I do think that the city needs to define what the city clerk's role is going to be going forward, so we have a clear understanding of what that's going to be. And I think that needs to be part of that conversation as to when we're looking at what the city code is going to be, as to the role of the parties and the duties of the individuals. Because we do need to have somebody in place that people can look to for day-to-day operations. And the city really has not had that for a couple of years.
And the city would need somebody qualified to do that, not just pick who we want to pick, right? Somebody
The
that has
city gets to pick,
qualifications.
city gets to pick who they want to pick, just like any other city, as to whether they're qualified or not. The council that's sitting at that time determines whether they're qualified. But the same would be true if it was city manager in Minneapolis. They can pick whoever they want to be city manager. They don't have to have a certain education to do the job.
Speaking of education, would it be a conflict of interest to lower your hiring standards to hire somebody? Say you had an educational requirement previous? Seems strange though, don't it?
No,
Regulatory?
no, I've known a number of cities that do it, particularly for police chiefs, where they require a 4-year degree and then decide that they want to hire in-house and allow somebody to take a position only had a 2-year degree.
Well, that'd be in-house and that'd still be education.
But that's education, but it's lowering the standards to look at the position. Every time the position comes open, quite frankly, the city should be reviewing what they think is appropriate for that position. And determining, what are we looking for qualifications? And then taking the applications that they get and if they mesh with that or reviewing the issue at that particular point. So I don't think you would want to have a standard for city clerk, for city maintenance supervisor, for a police officer that's always going to remain the same.
Check your microphones online, please. The last item on our meeting tonight is that our new city guy, Race Johnson, will start at 8 o'clock on Monday.
Who will be training him?
Monday morning, I got appointment.
Ron,
He's gonna be gone.
Monday morning, I'm gonna be gone.
you're gonna be gone?
Right, not at 8 o'clock, but I gotta get in Mankato in the morning.
Okay.
And into the afternoon.
So
I'll probably-
you can do that job without being retaliated against?
That's another problem.
What's wrong with you, man?
I know.
Well, it's been happening before.
I know.
Why are you sticking your head in
I
there
know.
again?
Well, I like to have them start out right, even though some people don't think it's right, but
Well,
I,
absolutely.
Yeah, you've only lived here, what,
You don't
65
know.
years?
I don't know why you'd even do that. You're just gonna get in trouble.
Can I ask you about defamation of character? Like, how does it work? I know social media is all over the place. There's so much out there right now. It's ridiculous. But I'm just wondering, how does it work? So since they represent a city, should they be on there making comments when it comes to this kind of stuff? Or people in the community? How does that work?
There's two separate issues. First off, defamation is people going out with malicious intent to say things that they're known to be false about other individuals to cause them pain.
Okay.
It's
So true things are okay?
But what's that?
True things are okay?
True things are a defense. I'm not saying they're going to be okay because all that's going to be decided by a jury at some point. Council members have the same freedom anybody else does for free speech and making comments that they'd have the same limitations you would, they have the same freedoms that you do.
So like if somebody's on social media and calls somebody on the council on social media and calls somebody a psycho neighbor, does that represent the city well?
That's a completely separate issue than whether or not it's defamation, but if it doesn't, I think everybody gets to make those decisions as to whether or not they think that's appropriate or not appropriate.
So like when you have all these social medias and you've got a stack of papers of everything all printed out with every single comment, and you go for defamation of character or slander, how does that all work out? How does the court system, what do they do with that kind of stuff?
They become very messy, they become very expensive, they usually go to trial and generally everybody's upset at the end.
But that's like a freedom of speech thing, right? You can say what you want on social media.
No, it's not necessarily freedom of speech, but that's something that quite frankly, we're litigating and the courts are taking a look at. Twitter and Facebook indicate that they're private and they should be able to regulate speech on their own. They're not a public forum the same way that the city hall is or the city council meeting would be.
Okay, so I've been a manager 24 years. I've supervised thousands of employees. So I just gotta ask, like each business has policies and procedures in place, for sure. So state of Minnesota, 8 hours is a half an hour unpaid, it's 2 15-minute pays. Is the government, do they follow that exact same rule when it comes to breaks?
Does the government?
Yeah, like is the government
City.
separate?
I think
The city. Is the city separate? Since city follows government rules, is it the same as it would be for a local business?
The rules for the city are not the same as they would be for a local business. The rules for Good Thunder, because of its size, would not be the same as they would be for Minneapolis regarding breaks and things that we can require or not require.
So
But there are
what
certain
is
things we
the
have to-
city's rule when it comes to breaks?
That's laid out in the city council, in the personnel policy.
So what is it?
those.
What's that?
We have one of those.
Yeah, we have a personnel policy.
What is it?
15 in the morning, 15 in the afternoon,
Paid.
paid.
Yeah, the breaks would be paid by federal law, lunch is not, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a city, I've had people reach out to me. I've heard from other people, like, I understand people have things that go on, have appointments, have kids. I get all of that, okay? But when the hours are posted on the door, you said at one point that those can be just adjusted at any time. So say somebody came up to the door on a Friday 5 times, couldn't get the clerk, no note. How is that professional or right? Or why is there no communication?
That would be something that would have to be addressed probably with the council on a case by case basis. There may be a specific answer for it on a given time. If it's a medical issue, we can't necessarily post that on the door regarding the employee or any of their
So you
family
could
members.
say due to personal reason
Yes.
versus nothing at all, no communication, no nothing.
That's a form of embezzlement. If you're sitting here getting paid and you're not here.
Well, again, that's assuming that they're not here for, they're missing for an improper purpose.
Okay, so this.
Purpose is proper. The notice I would, on the door would probably be more my advice, because when we put personnel issues or anything of that nature, we run the risk of violating HIPAA and some other laws regarding that particular employee.
But
Are HIPAA
personal,
laws important?
Are HIPAA laws important?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do they consider, is that considered serious if somebody violates that?
it depends on which particular provision. I mean, I can tell you the Mankato Clinic was found for violating HIPAA last year. They got a $2,500 fine, which I don't think they felt. I think it depends on what the circumstances are, what the violation is.
so the state of Minnesota, those paid 15 minutes, you're not allowed to leave your place of business. Say you run to the grocery store to get a pop and you get into an accident and you're being paid by your business. That's a huge problem. So is this the same? A paid 15 minutes should stay in your place of employment and not run around town?
I do not believe that's part of the personnel policy for City of Good Thunder.
So we don't have to follow state rules as,
That's a state policy. That's a state policy. It's not a statute and it's not a rule.
so can I get a copy of this personnel?
That would be available from City Hall, yes.
Because I'm just curious what's in it, because I've asked a lot of questions that aren't in there.
Would those breaks be timed out, like clocked out or noted that this person is on break at a certain time?
Yeah, they clock out.
So it'd be all on record.
Another 15.
Not
Not the 15s, no.
That's what he's.
The lunch, I'm sorry, the lunch would be punched out.
But there's no record of when the break gets taken. For an employee.
I have a personal record of every time I leave for my 15-minute breaks and what I'm doing. Can you have a copy of it? Absolutely not, because it's my personal information that I have for my personal reasons because of the situation. But if I'm ever not here and there's not a sign on the door, I'm probably not clocked in. If I'm at the post office and I forget to put a sign up, clocked in. If I go to the bank, clocked in. If I'm on my 1 hour lunch, I'm not clocked in. If I'm at an appointment, not clocked in.
Question for you, are we salary or are we hourly?
Hourly.
Okay, who okays the hour?
The personnel committee.
Which is-
If hours were set, and the person helped himself to extra hours, would that be considered theft?
It depends on the nature of the position. By definition, for the city clerk's position, the answer would be no.
So they're able to help themselves at time, whenever they feel like it, or?
They're not able to help themselves at time, but there may be times when additional time is necessary to perform, their functions, and that would be appropriate.
And that was the same for city maintenance position.
It would be the same for street superintendent.
Street superintendent.
Those are issues that could be addressed to the cities in writing, and the personnel committee would be required to take a look into.
So to wind back to the psycho neighbor, that would be slander, that would be defamation of character. Or not.
It would depend on what the entire tenor of the conversation is. What's the type of thing that typically does not end up in court because the judges don't let them go very far. It's just unfortunately not that uncommon.
But should it come from somebody that represents the city?
The city council members and city employees have the same freedoms that anybody else does. Whether it should or shouldn't isn't a legal question.
It's just not professional.
You can make that judgment, yes.
You're doing the same thing, going back to TikTok videos. And you're saying anybody that signed a petition. And then the phrase was made that if any of you mother effers think you're gonna come in here and get any help out of me.
If you have concerns
So
regarding
what
what
is that?
employee to look at TikTok, the most appropriate forum for that is to give, notice to the city, and then the personnel committee can determine what action, if any action, is appropriate on that.
Yes, we will.
And
then speaking of-
The personnel committee is currently the entire council. That just got changed in about the last.
Having the whole council's on the
Yeah,
person.
the whole council is at this point.
Okay, that'd be done. And then you're talking about action.
Mhm.
I hope there's as much action to clear the name, to broadcast it over every TV, radio station, newspaper, from here to Wisconsin border, Iowa border, North Dakota border, and Canada. That was put into, all the effort that was put into slander him or throw mud at him. There better be that much effort put into when this gets cleared. Because he deserves it.
If it's cleared, I do not doubt that the city will issue a press release and open
I
it.
hope
Press, and
they
somebody
do.
else would do it.
You as their legal representative should see to it that does get done.
I can't control the press. I can't make them publish things.
You were quoted in the paper.
What paper?
The Maple River Messenger, I got it,
Oh,
They
really?
were messing
That you
and the
turned it
free
in.
press.
What's that?
that you turned it in.
According to the city attorney, that's you, correct?
I have not seen the article in the Maple River.
But
Press.
you are the city attorney.
I am the city
Okay.
attorney.
It's in print.
I can't help that. I don't know that I spoke to anybody from the paper.
I'm just saying, we better put the effort back in.
But
Bring
you're
us back
saying
up.
I need to take action where I didn't take action before.
It's in print.
You did.
They can't print lies. Can they?
They got.
Can they print lies?
Oh, I took it.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. All over the place they can print lies.
What's that?
The OSA reviewed a letter from the city attorney that informed the council that Anderson appeared to have a direct conflict of interest. So it all came from you.
Oh, but yeah, that's not me making a comment. That's a letter I sent to the council quite a while ago. There's no question that letter exists. And, but that was put in there by the county attorney in the complaint. I did not make any comments to the press about this action. And I haven't seen
The
the.
way it reads, it acts like you did.
Yes. the way
I've
it
not heard, not the comment she was just talking about, but the way you read it, it does seem that they contacted you, which I thought was strange.
But I've got a number of different press places have contacted me, for the most part, we said no comment, or the most I've ever said would be, you know, that what's in the complaints and that being brought by the county attorney's office, but the city really hasn't taken any action. And me commenting any more on that, I don't read the paper in Mapleton. I probably should, but I don't.
It was free press.
Free press. Wasn't the free press today, was it?
No,
I saw the article in the Free Press, and I know the Free Press article just took this stuff that they received from the county attorney's office. And I haven't spoken to the Free Press about this.
so if they're all on the personnel committee, is there a conflict of interest that if something happens, like if she gets rode up, can her dad be a part of that? Isn't that a conflict of interest?
Her dad abstains for any issues that come up with her on the personnel
So
committee.
he's not on the personnel committee,
He's on the personnel committee. He abstains from those.
just that.
Yeah, because there's other personnel.
Place. And it's the council that decided to make the entire council the personnel committee, and we're not going to have that structure just based on a conflict that a single council member may have at a particular time. The idea is that the personnel committee is going to continue in this fashion for the foreseeable future.
Well,
I think everybody's pretty much talked their speech. I mean, I'm sure we could talk all night.
Well, I got a question probably for everybody in the council. Say the new guy comes, you know, I know a thing or three about city equipment and all that stuff. If the new guy has a problem or needs something fixed or whatever, am I allowed to help out since the mayor can't be talking to anybody?
I'd give you the same answer I would give your dad. No. Our insurance policy doesn't cover it. That was always the problem with Robert giving.
Advice is like how to run a street sweeper or something?
Yeah, because if the street sweeper sweeping breaks down, he gets injured because of something on that advice, it just runs a risk. The League of Minnesota Cities are usually pretty strict on that type of thing. You know, and that's the, I understand everything Robert's done for the city. I understand how much, the city means to him and apparently how much, to a lot of you, Robert means to you.
Some don't care.
Okay. But I would, Robert would be the first to admit that I've been on him for a while saying that he does too much. And we have to have other protections, which become really tough in a town like Good Thunder, where you guys really want to take control and make sure it's a nice city and make sure things are done. And you don't have a lot of staff coming there, but the legal answer almost always is take a step back and, let the employees do what they're going to do. The mayor and council have to, take a step back and not do those actions themselves personally.
Seems like we're hobbling this new guy though, because he isn't gonna have a clue.
He's coming in,
Many things.
he's coming in a particularly unfortunate time. The hope is that he's got the qualifications that he can come in and hit the road running, but the council will have to address those issues during the council meetings with him and it'll take some time.
Run for the hills and say, I don't want no part of this town.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to come in here and get in the middle of all this.
Well, why don't we as a council, or why doesn't the council do something like we did for the clerk? Hire a mentor for him. See if maybe Hunter or somebody would come over from the city of Minnesota Lake or city of Mapleton, Vernon.
Because you're saying more or less that if he doesn't know how to run a machine,
That's a lot.
But I think you need-
who are you gonna,
There's a lot of,
they'll tell him to do it.
I think that's where the problem comes in, is we don't really have a good answer for that. This idea of having a mentor, when somebody else is coming in and looking at that. But you may know how to operate the equipment. Robert may know how to operate the equipment.
That's where I'm getting at.
Right, but you guys are not covered by our insurance policy for it.
So I shouldn't have spent 30 hours with the patching.
I'm gonna leave that up to you. You know where I'm coming from.
Well, I know, but it just,
that therein lies where he gives us the advice and we don't agree with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
well, but yeah, but
That's an exact
I
situation,
got out of the truck and
because you've been helping for years.
so then,
You guys
Yes, I
are
don't
very
wanna do
hands-on.
nothing
You guys want to, you guys are hands-on. You want to help
Yeah.
the city. And I admire that in lots of places, but my role is, to look at for the worst case scenario and try to avoid it.
so if, okay, I mean, I hate to say that, but do we have to pay somebody to get off that? Where that would be, but then you gotta put that out for,
You can pay somebody.
well, me and you could go at it and you don't wanna do it.
I do think,
I don't know.
but I do think the idea that having a mentor, you guys can take up at your next council.
We're gonna have to with this guy.
That
I mean,
makes a
and
lot of
that's,
sense.
and we knew that ahead of time.
Good idea.
So it's just a matter,
Right.
Jake, you just signed yourself up.
Hired him before this all happened.
Saturdays and Sundays.
They had a damn good one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the League of Cities or city insurance cover Ron being there, telling the guy, show him how to do something?
No, he's not employed.
Do we need to?
Ron,
Him an employee
Oh,
to
Ron?
cover this?
Ron
No,
should be covered,
he's not employed. He's an elected official.
paid for by the city.
So then we.
Well, I mean, he has yeah. It's not the same way. It's not a full-time job. It's considered a part-time job.
So he's not insured then either, if he would cover it, helping.
My guess is that the league would say, no, he's not.
He wouldn't be covered under a volunteer policy.
So if you're not covered.
That's where the problem comes.
Yeah, I just,
He's not technically.
Discuss that shortly, though,
I think so.
the Chad.
What is your volunteer policy?
We'd have to go back and see.
Dang him to death until they quit and leave.
I don't know, because it'd be the same thing as the mayor helping out, could be a volunteer policy.
Right.
What, yeah,
I think it's a
we're
volunteer.
getting all kinds of,
It's a volunteer insurance policy.
yeah.
He was alluding to the volunteer
An
insurance.
insurance policy to cover your
Yeah, yeah,
volunteers,
yeah.
labor actions, whatever. What's the difference if it's Mayor Anderson, Councilman Cowell? What's the difference then? If you have a volunteer policy, you're covered.
It's a good question. I don't know that we have a volunteer.
We end up in jail because.
There's a letter about that.
Build on you?
Jim, is there a policy, if you've been reading them? Volunteer policy?
We've been told that there is an insurance policy to cover volunteers. We've got mixed signals. Chad did kind of clear it up with us. There is coverage for volunteers.
But all
Really?
volunteers?
Don't know, not a lawyer, not.
What about part timers?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Bet.
Apparently you're not in a city.
Only
employee.
age 79 and younger.
Well, I was told I was on that fancy electronic thing nowadays.
We all
saying
will
that
be.
I was never a city employee.
Face the nation.
I've mowed grass for 3-4 years, but I was never a city employee.
Don't know who said that.
Y'all
Said that you
confirm
are a
you've been
city employee.
Well, that one came out of Roswell, I think. We all probably agree on that. Area 51.
Bob's
I
been
know what
mowing
you're talking
grass
about.
for like 3 years. He's
Yeah.
best lawnmower man out there. Yep. It's after.
Well. I want to thank everybody. Yeah.
And I would like to just say a couple things, just to try to answer a couple questions here. I can only speak back for myself, but no one was more surprised when this happened than me. I mean, there was no indication at all. These things, like you're saying, were talked about. I thought they were all done with. I had no clue. Very surprised. The other thing I want to say is that I do apologize for not, the TikToks were all brought up and all that and other things. And not only one party, other parties, people in the public too. To the personnel, I'm chairman of the personnel committee. I chose personally to not deal with anything before the election on those issues, because I'm not that kind of person. I don't try to poke anything. I wanted the election to happen normally without a whole bunch of hidden controversy,
How'd
okay?
that work out?
Well, okay, that's why I'm apologizing, but at the same time, that was my decision. That was not a council decision. That was my decision. That was me. I've made many decisions for city over the years as fire chief and all that, and I've always owned up to them. And I own up to that one. But again, no one was more surprised than myself. There was no information, inclination, hint, or anything to us that I know about any of this happening. So, or why, or anything, or questions, not even a question, so. I just wanted everybody to know that. As a council, we're in as much we learned more tonight than we've known. At least on myself, than we've ever known before, so.
Well, somebody knew a hell of a lot more than what's being brought out here, because otherwise this wouldn't have started.
Oh, right. I mean, that's, we don't know.
The truth will come out. We'll find out who ratted it.
I hope you do, because then when you find out it's not me, you're gonna owe me an apology.
I owe you nothing.
I'm just telling you, you guys are all like, oh, Jim did it, Jim did it. And if you get your answer, you're gonna find out I had nothing to do with it, period.
You were the guy that contested the concrete though. I mean, you didn't start that. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, I measured my concrete and found out that I didn't agree with the numbers 100%.
But did you
Absolutely.
watch everything else in the depth, 4 here, 6 here, 8 here? Did you watch the whole project?
Do you know what I do for a living?
You're not qualified. No, nobody does.
Sit at City Hall?
Now, you're not qualified to speak on where he poured where, because I've calculated it out. He's calculated it out. Like I've said before, on a 2 or 3 truck pour, he has a 5-gallon pail left over or a scoop shovel left over. We both arrived at the same numbers. You tell me how that guy was off compared to what you've got.
And Jake, you were there for the whole thing, right? Every pour?
Maybe not everyone, but I was there for a lot of it, yeah.
Measured it all out.
I do remember some confusion between Mariano and Robert about things being billed to the city. And they were actually going to Red Iron's gas station name, and I do remember Robert saying something to Mariano about how that needs to change, and it just not really registering with them. Never really registered. So for the longest time, yeah, everything was being billed to the Red Iron gas station when it was actually being poured in the city sidewalk.
And his wife speaks 0 English.
I believe
and
it.
She's the one that
I
sends
believe it.
out
I
the
believe it
bills.
100%.
And his is very broken. I am Paquito Espanol, but I can speak with him just a little bit. But yeah, his wife speaks no English at all.
There is a communication barrier there.
Yes.
Now, our address got put on city bill latings. Now, that has 0 to do with the mayor. 0, less than 0. So I mean, there's another thing that the state auditor office should have looked and said to begin with. First of all, is this a fact? Not just let's go arrest the guy and figure it out later on. I mean, it had nothing to do with the mayor. It was between either the contractor or the concrete company that address got put on.
And I've been paying bills for 20 years. And the first thing I look at is A, is it in my name? B, is it in my address? C, is it my bill? Do I have the invoices that go with this bill? I would never pay a bill that didn't have my address on it. That's the first thing I've done. I would do, and I've done it for 20 years. So how we're not verifying something before we're writing out a check just blows my mind, because this is not 535 Main Street.
Was the city looked into this now? Like, we had on the city council meeting, there's a discrepancy of 40 yards. Then all of a sudden there's 18 loads. I mean, have you guys looked into this since this went down and figured out what's going on where? I don't understand any of it. You know what I mean? 40 loads to 182. Or 40 yards to 182 yards, it's quite. The city should have been able to provide. That, in fact, this concrete was there, it means like we talked.
And nobody asked us for that information.
I don't say, we weren't asked.
Nobody asked us for any information.
Numbers never came up. I don't believe.
We don't.
Other than what I'd heard on otherwise, I mean, through grapevine, I mean, but
Somebody was asked though, because they reported that the city couldn't provide what, if any, was used on the city project. So somebody was asked to provide that.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything, but I wasn't asked until Wednesday for that information. So Wednesday, when they were here, they took everything in association with that project, all the spreadsheets with Jake's handwriting on it with the measurements and everything. They took all that on Wednesday.
Exactly a week after he was taken.
Well, that's when they came here with a subpoena and a search warrant. So that's when I gave them what they asked for.
So Tom, I'm gonna ask you, now that you know of all these personal issues, I've been paying withholding tax for 20 years as well. Never once have I made a late payment. Not once have I made a late payment. So we've got that, how many thousands? We've got the income, many thousands. We've got these TikToks we need to address. Are we gonna address it now, or are we just gonna let this go?
Well, we will address them.
We'll address it.
Cause it's like you guys come, you meet, nothing gets solved. And then the next day, the next meeting, you're like, oh, well, we'll talk about that again. And again, nothing gets done, just like these properties. Ashley reached out to me and said, I couldn't agree with you more because nothing gets done. We waste paper, stamps, letters, and then we do nothing about it. Nothing gets done. It's a revolving door. You come in, you talk, you leave. You come in, you talk, you leave. That's all we do. If I have an employee that's late 4 days in a row, are they gonna work for me anymore? Absolutely not. But yet we let issues go here over and over. 16 years we've let issues go. We have to represent the city. We have to take care of issues.
I have a question. Who enforces dog leash laws?
Nobody.
Nobody.
No one would enforce it.
We pay them for nothing.
I have a friend that just got bit yesterday. And she texted me and it was down the street here. She said, where was that dog attacked you a year ago? And I said, I told her where and. The dog bites could go to Fort Sheriff's. She had to go to the ER.
It's called 911.
She needs to call the sheriff.
The Minnesota law is one bite, they get euthanized. That's the law.
But no.
It's not the way it's happened.
In their yards or on their leash.
2 bites. they get
No,
euthanized.
we got a letter because I had a baby in one hand and I was unleashing the dog in the other hand and she took off. She never once bit the dog or the woman. And we got a letter saying we had to put her to sleep. But there was no bites in the emergency room, no nothing, no pushes, no nothing. We got a letter, I probably still have it, saying we had to put our dog down.
What?
And there was no bite,
Gee, I wonder who she was related to.
0 bite. And we got a letter to put her down. So what we did is we called our insurance company and say, hey, she went to the hospital, give us proof that our dog bit her dog or her. 0 bites. She did nothing but go up and smell the lady and her dog.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that you got a letter of that nature. And what I can say is that the statute requires 2.
I can't even name.
So again, if they can't enforce our policies, why are we paying them?
That's what we're gonna have to change.
They can't do they can't do court enforcement, or they're not hired to do court enforcement.
But they can sit at the clerk's house for an hour and a half and visit. That's what we're paying her to do.
Okay,
If there's issues on that, they can be addressed to the personnel committee, who can take that up with the sheriff's department.
So we address the council and they, what did you say?
You would address that to the personnel committee. They would take a look into the allegations. Take whatever step they thought was appropriate. If they thought the deputy wasn't doing the job they were supposed to be doing, we would have to notify the sheriff's department of that, of our.
It's already been done.
Yeah.
I mean, we can call something in and they don't even come and visit us at our house to find out our side. They hear one side and then they leave town. What kind of officer is that? Who are you in town for? Who do you use for it? Not the other party.
okay. I think we're good. Ron, would you like to, somebody want to make a motion to adjourn? It's usually here.
Just because I always do.
I know.
So move. I thank everybody for being here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discussion here that really helps. Yep, and that people are interested. That's what helps me.
People are disgusted.
Yep.
We're not
No.
going away.
So I mean, that's nice. And because usually we have 2-3 people here, you know, and this is good.
Lived here
You
my
got-
whole life and I'm embarrassed. to
Ashley,
say
how
I'm
many
from
are on my computer?
because of this.
48.
48?
Yeah, someone's in the waiting room, so 48.
Okay, so Ron, motion to adjourn. Somebody want to second it?
I'll second his motion.
All right,
We thank you for the support. If you're here for the support, we thank you as a family
Yep.
for the support 1000%.
Like I say, getting back to that, I didn't sleep a couple nights after I heard about it.
Our kids are getting bullied by kids in this community.
Yeah.
at school.
Yep.
It's horrible.
What?
pass that on at school.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You wanna know what bothers me at the point where you got a 100-year-old grandma? The dog daughters.
I wonder why mine now writes.
Back to what we spoke about earlier this year.
Are we
That
adjourned?
shouldn't be happening.
Why not?
People, children.
Are we adjourned, sir?
We're adjourned.
Let them prove.
Wow.
Yeah.